Hello, listeners, and welcome to Season 10 of the Meet the Mancunian podcast, Social Impact Stories from Manchester. I'm your host, Deepa Thomas-Sutcliffe, offering you a warm Mancunian welcome. I'm delighted to bring to you Season 10, where I celebrate social impact community heroes across Manchester. I hope, dear listeners, you can learn from their life experiences, the challenges they've overcome, and their passion for their cause. My aim for the Meet the Mancunian podcast is to encourage you to live your life with purpose and impact, inspired by the stories my guests share every Tuesday throughout the season. You can listen to the podcast on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or my website, meetthemancunian.co.uk. Get ready for another season full of thought-provoking conversations and life-changing stories. Welcome to the 10th episode of Season 10 of the Meet the Mancunian podcast, Social Impact Stories from Manchester. Passionate about addressing food poverty, we hear from Zoe Marlow, Food Bank Manager, Dandelion Community Church, in this episode. In Zoe's own words,
I like to be the bridge to someone getting the food. But sometimes it's not just what you're giving them in a carrier bag. It's how you treat them and how they feel when they're around you and the other volunteers.
Thank you, Zoe, for joining me today.
Hello, thank you for having me.
It's lovely to know we are almost neighbors as well, besides everything else that we're connected with.
Yeah.
Tell us about what sparked your interest in helping the community. Was there a defining moment that sparked that journey for you?
It was my own personal story. I needed help and I was welcomed into the Dandelion community where I am now. I was welcomed there. I was given the help and support I needed, and found I wanted to help people that were struggling the same as I was. And I didn't want anyone to be alone and go without. So that's what spurred me on to do what I do.
That is lovely when we have these lived experiences that we can actually convert into something good. How did you get involved with Dandelion Food Bank and what does it do?
I got involved with the Dandelion Food Bank through people I knew there who helped me. And I've been going to that church when I was quite young, so I was a part of that community anyway. And then I learned more about the food bank and how it's run, and I wanted to be a part of that. We provide emergency food parcels for people who have no other way of getting food. It's a voucher-based system. It's 3 squared meals for 3 days. You get your breakfast, lunch and dinner, and it's 3 days worth. And it's all tinned and packet food. Most of it is donation as well from the public, and it's supported by the Trussell Trust as well. Okay. And we help a wide range of people, from homeless people to people who are working 40 plus hours and still can't afford food, the rent increase, or gas and electric, fuel poverty. There's so many different people that need our help and support. And it's nice to end the stigma. Food poverty as well. People are ashamed to come into us and they're ashamed that they need help. And it's about saying to them, you shouldn't be ashamed. Your situation is not your fault. Mostly it's the government cuts and things like that are forcing people into food poverty. It's nice to be able to advise people, and you just see how relaxed they are when they walk in. They go from really tense and really nervous to leaving really relaxed and a little bit more positive than before.
It sounds like that's such a useful service. Living within shores, I often see posts of people asking for help on Facebook. And you're right, this can feel like, oh, can't I look after food? But actually, these people have suffered homelessness or, like you said, food poverty or other reasons. And sometimes we have to remember that this could happen to anyone as well. Sometimes these are just bad luck that can happen to anyone. So really giving a helping hand is such a good idea. Tell us some of the obstacles you have to overcome in your work. You talked about people themselves having perhaps a bit of a stigma or a concern that they are asking for help. What are the other things that you've had to overcome?
Other people can be very judgmental, and that's very difficult to get people to understand. I have a lot of people saying to me, "Oh, why are you just giving people food? That's not helping them." And you're giving them that little bit of independence because they're going home with it takes a lot for somebody to just walk in a building and say, "Please, can I have food?" And I always say you should be proud of yourself because you've done that. You have provided for yourself. That's an obstacle. And obviously donations. If the hub where we get the food from isn't getting the right donations, then we're unable to help as much as we want. So that can involve maybe we don't get toiletries that week, we don't get toothpaste. And that's quite difficult because we want to give people everything that they have the right to. But if we don't have the donations or anything like that, it can be quite difficult. That can be an obstacle.
And when you mention the hub, what do you mean by the hub?
Within Shaw Centre, there is the food bank hub where all the food gets donated, or any food that's donated, they pick up and then they take to the hub. And that's where it gets sorted and weighed so that we know what we get in. And then we do a list on our end and say we need X amount of sugar or, milk and things. And then they bring it to us. We have baskets in supermarkets where you can just donate tins or whatever you want to donate, and then that comes to us. And it's such a difficult time for everybody right now. Not a lot of people can afford to donate, so that affects us in a way. Just help us a little bit financially, but most of what we get is donations, which at the moment is quite difficult. Not everybody can afford even a spare tin of beans or tea bags, so that's quite difficult.
Thank you for explaining that. When you think about the communities that have benefited the most from your work, are there any particular communities within Shaw that you support?
We support all of the community. There's no bias. You do have to have a food bank voucher, which you can get from job centre, schools, citizens advice. There's places where you can get the vouchers. I could be serving a homeless person, and then right after them could be a mum with 3 children, and then right after that could be somebody who's not earned enough in their paycheck that week for food. It's a whole demographic. It's very difficult to just pin that one part of the community down. I'd like to think that we support all of the community, and it's all different races, gender, LGBTQ plus. It doesn't matter. If you need, we're there to support you with that food. But also at the Dandelion, we have a citizens advice worker that comes on a Wednesday. So we ask at the food bank, is there anything else that you need support with? And then we can send them to the citizens advice. We also have the law centre there as well. That's appointments based on a Monday. So we try and get as much support in the building as we can, because poverty, housing, health, it's all. So we try and support that person as best we can with everything.
That's so useful and great to know that you have these support services also within the Dandelion community. When you think about the impact that you made so far, what would you say is the impact of the Dandelion Food Bank?
I think we've helped people become a little bit more confident in coming for food parcels. It's great what we do because I see people the first time they come, they could have a mental health problem, and it's so hard for them to just walk through those doors. But you can see how they're feeling. And now we get people who just walk through the door and they're just happy to see you. So I'd like to think that we've helped people come into their community a little bit more and to feel less negative about needing support. because a lot of people think, oh, if I need support, that means I'm this and this kind of person. It's a friendship, like a family at the community where we are. And people feel so much more relaxed to get the food, because I never want to feel like an obstacle in someone's way of getting food. I like to be the bridge to someone getting the food. But sometimes it's not just what you're giving them in a carrier bag, it's how you treat them and how they feel when they're around you and the other volunteers. So I feel like I have some wonderful volunteers as well who actually care about what they're doing. And that's very important. You're not just volunteering to make yourself feel good, you're volunteering because you care. And that's what we have at the Dandelion. Everybody cares. I'd like to feel that we just let people feel that little bit cared for.
Like that very much, because you're right, food is important and it's like one of those essential things that we need to survive, but then treating people with that respect and that dignity, making them feel welcomed. And like you said, showing that you care, especially people who may have mental health or homelessness, they may feel almost unloved at some times. So showing them a little bit of that human connection, that does sound very powerful. Do you want to also talk about Dandelion Community Savers and how you got inspired by your trip to Africa?
The Dandelion Community Savers was quite new to me. It's a savers group, and we invite people in the community to come and save. There's no opening fee. You can save 50 pence a time, and it encourages people that you can be in charge of your money, no matter your circumstance. Some people on benefits may be like, oh, I can't afford to save money. But even if it's as little as £1 a week, and it grows and grows, and it's about helping people become more self-sustainable. It brings a wonderful community together, like all the members, the savers, they're all amazing people. And we take them on days out and we do lots of different things with them. We have meals, and it's just wonderful to bring these people together. And they're all different people. We have pensioners, we have young people. It's great to teach young generation how to save. And then through that's where I met Class, which is how I got to go to Africa. And Class is like the parent group of the savers, and which is where we get a lot of our funding through and things like that. So I was offered a trip to Africa because in Nairobi, they have the same savers group. So it was eye-opening to see how this community get together, because we went into the actual slum village, and this community save their money, and for different reasons. They could save for the children's uniform or rent, different things like that. And one of the wonderful ladies that I met, because I was a white person coming in and telling them, and they said, you don't know poverty, so why are you here? And then I was quite personal with my life, and I said I was in my house, which I'm very lucky to have a home. I had no electric, no gas, no food. My poverty is so different from yours, but we both have poverty. I said, and that's happening a lot in my country, where people do have a home, but they can't afford to sustain it. The money goes on that home and keeping that home above their head for anything else. And I felt we bonded through that, because we both were trying to fight poverty. It was a different poverty, but it was still poverty in the long run. And it was just inspiring to meet strong women that were oppressed all the time, and was constantly people were trying to just keep them where they should be. And they would march, and they had guns put in the face because they were fighting and marching for what they've been. And these women didn't even let the gun in the face scare them. They just carried on. And it was wonderful to see the things that they have built and the future that they have provided for their children. And as soon as I got off the plane to come home, I was like, what can we do? Why aren't we doing what they're doing? When it comes to data mapping, they would go around to every address on the slums and they would make sure that they knew who was there, how many people were there, what help that person would need, so that if anything ever did happen, community rallied round for that person. And that kind of inspired us to get on the housing, where we're fighting for more social housing for Wythenshawe, because everybody deserves a home, everybody deserves dignity, and everybody deserves food and good health. And we're supposed to be richer than Africa, but it feels like our community spirit has been lost, and they have community spirit in abundance, and that's how they get things done. And I thoroughly believe a community can come together and can improve everybody's life around them. If we all got that little bit of a belief in ourselves and in each other, Wythenshawe could be it's a wonderful place anyway, but it could be much more wonderful.
I can see that. I would say, yes, in general, people are extremely nice and kind, and you can see the kind of support even on the Facebook group. But you're right, there will be pockets where more can be done, or it's hard to reach, or groups that are not on Facebook or digital. So, how are you reaching them as well? When you think about misunderstanding, and is there something people often misunderstand? We've talked a little bit about the stigma of being homeless or facing some form of poverty. Are there other things that you found are misunderstood? Like for me, a food bank, I guess I understood a food bank to be both emergency sources, but also a regular source of food. Like when I've been to Mustard Tree, they have a grocery store where people from who are homeless can come and pick up weekly provisions. Is there anything that you'd like to myth bust for us?
There is community groceries around Wythenshawe, and I think they're very useful at helping people go in and make choices what food they want. But a lot of it, you have to sign up with £5 and then you have to pay a certain amount, which may work. But for me, I don't think it's fair to everybody, because maybe some people could afford that £5 joining fee, but not everybody can. I remember my friends would go, but I couldn't afford the £5 joining fee, as well as the £7 to buy the groceries. That's why Fair Shop is wonderful, because they get the food, it can be donated or they'll get it cheaper, and then they will sell items for 20 pence. And that's what I can support, because people, you could have £1 in your pocket, and instead of going hungry, you could go in the Fair Shop and you could get like 5 items for £1. And to me, that's a much fairer system in this economy, and helps people feel like they're providing for themselves, because not everybody wants to go to a food bank and get a handout, as they call it. I don't think it's a handout. It's what everyone deserves, because everybody has a human right to food. And I don't feel there should be that many obstacles to that food. And in this country, we have so much food waste. So Fair Shop actually helped to reduce food waste, as well as help people provide for themselves. And I think if the community groceries were a little bit cheaper, for me, I'd be more supportive of them. But I just don't feel like this economy, people can afford to use the community groceries as much. And that's why people have to get food vouchers. And then they come to us. We could have a single person voucher, or we could have a family of 8. And if you're a family of 8, going to a community grocer where you're only allowed 2 items, it's not sustainable. Whereas if a family of 8 come to the food bank, then they get the right amount of food for their family. So I think the grocer and the food bank, they're similar, but they're very different to me. I love the food bank because we are helping people. There's no questions asked. You come in, we ask if you want tea or coffee, if you've got children, and then you get your food. Whereas in some cases that I've heard of in community groceries, they want to know, are you religious? Different things like that. Some actually try and put religion onto you and offer to redeem you for you to get that food. And religion and food are two different things. Even though we're in a church building, the religion and the community are very separate. A lot of people feel a lot better because they're walking into a church and it feels peaceful. You do feel peace when you walk in, but that's where the religion ends when it comes to the food bank. And we do community meals as well, where we all eat together on a Wednesday and Sunday. Everyone in the community, we just sit down and we just eat together. Food is, to me, it's a language. Just breaking bread with someone, just eating a small meal with someone, it creates friendships and it strengthens the community. And people just come back because they feel welcome.
Now, this community meals do sound wonderful, and thank you for educating me. I don't know some of these things, so it's good for me. And hopefully, listeners from around the world will also learn more about this. And I do agree, food, shelter, these are basic human rights that everybody should have. And it's amazing to hear about the work that the ladies in Africa are doing, as well as how that inspired you. What's your top tip for people looking to make an impact in their communities? So let's say somebody hears your story, Zoe, and they want to now do something in another part of the world or another part of the UK. How should they get started?
Just kindness to start with. Just kindness, even if it's your next door neighbour or your friends. If you see your friends struggling, walk into your local community centre and ask if they'd like someone to volunteer for the day. Maybe find a food bank, donate a tin of beans. Even if you can't commit yourself to a lot, there is always small little gestures that you can do. Look around the community and there's whatever your interest could be. There's gardening clubs, there's cooking, there's helping the aged as well. There's so many wonderful organisations in Wythenshawe and around the world that you can help with. And if there isn't an organisation, maybe get a community together and build one. If you see something that isn't there, maybe put it in place. If you can't do that, just small gestures of kindness can go a long way.
Love that about kindness. It's such an important thing because it doesn't cost you much to do something kind or just to offer a bit of a welcoming message or gesture to people. An opportunity for you to talk about anything I haven't asked you about. I know you're also associated with quite a few different things in Wythenshawe.
We've also created Wythenshawe Central Network. And in light of the new development that will be happening in Wythenshawe, we wanted to create somewhere where the community's voice can be heard so that people can't just come into our community and say, this is what you are having and you will be happy with. We've created a network so that the community can meet with the developers, any information that we can get for them, so they can say to the developers, look, we don't want this. I had a meeting not long ago with them and they were saying different things. And I said, okay, so if someone who gets £200 a month wants to come to Civic Centre in 5 years, can I afford a cup of coffee? And they didn't have the answer. What we need to do, we need to get together as a community, as a voice, keep them on their toes. But we can't just do it with a small group. It has to be the larger community. So we're actually doing a walkabout with Wythenshawe Central Network, and we're meeting in Civic Centre, and then we're all going to walk around where the new development will be, just so the community can have a voice. Every month we are doing workshops and people are more than welcome to come. And the developers are going to be opening one of the shops on Civic so that people can pop in and ask their questions.
Okay, a drop-in center.
Yeah.
That's a great idea and more power to all of you. I'm now going to move us to the signature questions I ask all my guests. And the first one is, what makes Manchester a unique place for social impact work?
Oh, it's the people. Definitely the people. Having been to other places in the world and then you come back to Manchester, it's the people are so resilient. You could drop them down and they'll get back up, and they're easy to help. You want to help the people in Manchester. I think it's just the spirit, I think. But it's definitely the people are a massive part of Manchester.
I like that very much about the spirit and the resilience. Like you said, people have been through a lot, but they find a way, and that's really important.
Mm-hmm.
If you could have dinner with any historical figure in Manchester, who would it be with and why?
It would be Emmeline Pankhurst, and it would just to be able to thank her and show her what she has done as being a Manchester woman and having men tell me I can't do things my whole life. She inspired me because her and her daughters had men telling them they could and couldn't do things.
Hmm.
And she carried on. She just carried on and she believed in what she believed in and she finally got it. It'd be really nice to show her what she believed in has actually come true. That would be wonderful.
She's very popular on the podcast, but
Yeah.
yes, that would be quite lovely. And like you said, it's almost like she's left a legacy for us that people like yourself are able to carry on. If you were to create a social impact superhero, what powers would they have and what cause would they fight for?
Oh, wow. I think the powers would be to give people hope and to let people know there is hope. That would be her superpower. It's hard to pinpoint whether it would be a food bank or because there's so many things needed. But I just think she would be a pillar of hope and she would just help strengthen communities to do what they already do.
I like that very much about being a pillar of hope. Maybe in my mind, I'm thinking of Lady Liberty, but
Yeah.
I'm sure there's a Mancunian element we could come up with. I love to picture these superheroes,
Yeah.
whatever they look like. What's the most important life lesson you've ever learned?
Don't listen to people when they tell you can't do anything. If you believe you can, just do it. And if anyone tells you not to, just do it. Many people have told me I can't do what I've already done. Believe in yourself and never believe you can't do it.
I think this is so important, that self belief, because sometimes things can get hard or more people
Yeah,
say no than say yes. So
yeah.
if you keep going, you need to rely a lot on yourself. So, really powerful. Thank you for sharing that. How can interested people reach out to you and learn more? Where can they find Dandelion Food Bank and
Um,
where can they find you online as well?
the Dandelion Food Bank is actually in the Dandelion Centre, and we're open on a Monday and a Wednesday, 10 a.m. to 1 p.m. And we have a drop in where you can come and just grab a cup of coffee. You can ask me or the building coordinator for anything that you may need, or how could we point you into a direction where you can be helped. We also
Mm.
have community food, so we get donation of bread. So we've always got bread, and we have free community food that's out as well. And Wednesday and Sunday from 12:30 we have a community meal which is free. It's on a Sunday, it's a 3-course meal, and it's great to just sit down and eat with fellow community members. And you can find us on Facebook under the Dandelion Community Hub, I think it is, and find out some of the wonderful things that we have there. It's amazing.
Thank you so much for including that. And I'll make sure that it's in the show notes. And to end the podcast, is there a funny or a heartwarming story you'd like to share with listeners? Maybe something from your Africa trip?
I think with my Africa trip, it was funny because the women that were there were not very different from the Mancunian women. We pull our sleeves up and we just keep going. One of the women said, what we do with our men is we just let them go out and then they can do what they're doing. And then we get on with the real work because women can do real work, whereas men just get told to shut up and sit down. And that stayed with me. It was like, not as much tell the men to shut up and sit down, but it was just great that I was brought up by women, and I've never met anyone so courageous as someone wearing a skirt. They're just amazing and just keep going. And they had lots of funny stories as well.
They sound really nice. And you're right, not to have any kind of bias, but there is definitely sometimes you need some people in the real world to do the real work rather than the talking. So often this could be from a female persuasion or identifying as female persuasion. I've seen this myself. I volunteered in Africa in 3 countries, and you could really see the women just getting on with things, and men were nice too, but you could see that sometimes they just knew how to get out of the way. Thank you so much, Zoe. This has been a real pleasure. I'll be in touch with you very soon about the podcast, but just want to say a big thank you for sharing your journey with me today.
Thank you. And maybe one day you could come to the Dandelion community.
That would be great. Zoe, I really enjoyed learning about addressing food poverty in the community today. Dear listener, thank you so much for listening to the 10th episode of the Meet the Mancunian podcast, Season 10. I hope today's episode has inspired you to make positive change wherever you live. Tune in every Tuesday for a new episode or log on to meetthemancunian.co.uk to listen to all the episodes and learn more about my podcasting story. Next week, on Tuesday, 29th April 2025, I speak to Chris Marsh about community organizations in the penultimate episode of the season. It's wonderful to hear from you, dear listeners. You can share your story or send me a message on my website, meetthemancunian.co.uk, or on social media @MeetTheMancunian on Instagram, Facebook, and Blue Sky, and @Meet the Mancunian podcast on YouTube. Thank you to my wonderful community of listeners. Remember, your voice, your story, and your actions matter. Share this episode with someone who needs to hear it, and let's inspire even more positive change to a better, kinder world. And until next time, let's continue making Manchester and beyond a place of greater impact, compassion, and action.